in us that this is the shit.
Me and my cousin were both buying a lot of records, and over the years came, and then we started getting into more of the gabber and speedcore. Then from there, it spawned to like DHR type stuff with like all the early breakcore stuff. Then we got into more like Praxis style records, and it all kind of just merged from there. Then we stuck with the style and stayed with like lots of scratching, lots of DJ tricks, but with like a more experimental style of music. And then got into noise, and instead of using like typical scratch records that a lot of people use that have like all the same samples like ah and fresh, we got into more noise and just doing noise and scratching to noise records, and it just seemed to fit with all the style that was going on. Now it's growing like all around in the States. You see little places popping up in all different cities. Like you'll go to New Jersey, there'll be like 100 people. Places like New York, there's a lot of people. Even people are doing stuff in like Phoenix, Arizona now, where it's likable that you can maybe do a whole U.S. tour, but it's raging in Europe. That's where everything's going on.
Some promoters are trying to throw a really artsy show where people can stand around and talk about the music. Other ones just want people to dance, and I think other ones are more like punk feeling, like a breakcore party where people are supposed to go really crazy and over the top.
I'm just as involved in the noise scene as I am in the free jazz scene as I am in the electronic dance music scene. In this trip alone, it's been such an amazingly wide range of things. In Brussels, I played in a beautiful ancient theater with Tony Conrad and Charlemagne Palestine, you know, those classic 60s avant-garde minimalist figures. And then the night before, I was in Ghent at a squat with, like, you know, crusty punks and people just drinking and smashing bottles. I mean, playing almost identical music. Wow, you know, people actually listen to this fractured, just almost like anti-dance music. It's just so complex and impossible to follow. How could you ever dance to this? And this light went off, and I went, yeah, dance music that you can't dance to. That's, for me, you know, the energy of dance music, but super cut up and fragmented and abstract, and that was just so perfect for me. You know, like just taking the signifiers of a kind of music and then just twisting them inside themselves and making something just completely anarchic and fresh, and just kind of punk in a way. You know, it was really like the time it really appealed to me, and I've kind of kept this theme alive for the last 10 years since I've been doing all this stuff. So
I was surrounded by the whole DJ culture. I was a definite part of the Detroit techno family. Of course, I got fed up with that at one point because they were making some very good hard music, but then it went back into like some house vibes, and at that point, I just went more into jungle and then harder breaks. A bunch of little metalhead kids coming up to me and like really being enthusiastic about the crossover, and they were really looking for extreme music. I don't think they're biased or jaded against if it's electronic or if it's just pure instruments, you know. They seem really open-minded and just wanting to hear some really hard music. So that's good, and that's been happening in like every city I've been playing in. I don't think I could generalize and say, yes, it's a super political scene, but I also would say there are politics involved, and people do have to deal with it. No matter how successful they want to be, they're going to have to deal with that, because it was a part of the founding structure.
Was eben ein Einfluss war, das war früher einfach das riesige Zugpferd, das auch alle gehört haben, war eben diese ganze Geschichte Atari Teenage Riot, Actator und Digital Hardcore Recordings. Und das hat sich vom Sound her ja verändert. Das Label gibt es ja nach wie vor, aber macht Geschichten, die in der Breakcore-Szene gar nicht mehr wahrgenommen werden.
Early on, all the labels were really pushing, which still are, which labels, like I mentioned again, like Praxis and stuff, they're very political labels that try and wider stand, that try and expose people to more information.
Es gibt Websites, es gibt Diskussionen und dann Austausche und einfach Aktivisten auch, die einfach politisch aktiv sind. Und das ist schon ein Unterschied, und das steht für mich aber nicht im Gegensatz jetzt zu einer Party, um dort Spaß haben zu können.
We would never had known that people in America were doing the same thing if we hadn't had the internet, you know.
When it comes to underground music, Breakcore is, I think, a perfect example of how the internet has established a music style, especially through distribution, all the labels on the net, and the contact between artists and people listening to the music.
The people that I consider to be my peers are, none of them live in the same city. They live in the U.S. We all lived all over the U.S. and at the same time we would be emailing every day with Sick Boy in Belgium, with Hard Off in Japan, with Toe Cutter in Australia, and I think now the whole scene is completely based on the internet.
None of this stuff would be released without the internet. I think so. I think a lot of people find out about things because of the internet. But then also, fuck the internet, man. It's like, you know how many fucking shitty bedroom producers are out there now getting shit released because of the internet? It's terrible.
I think Breakcore as a sort of sound was already there before the internet and broadband took hold, but yeah, it's definitely, young people now use the internet to listen to music, so they probably wouldn't have found out about it otherwise.
Was man Breakcore jetzt nennt, existierte schon vor vielleicht 10, 15 Jahren und ist dann ein bisschen gestorben. Das wurde ein bisschen vergessen. Es gab immer so einen Kreis von Hardcore-Freunden, die das immer gehört haben. Aber seit vielleicht 3, 4 Jahren ist das deutlich größer geworden. Und was neu ist, was richtig neu ist, meiner Meinung nach, ist es gerade so, allgemeine Medien, allgemeine Musikmedien sprechen davon.
Just the fact that you guys are sitting here like asking me about Breakcore, doing a documentary about Breakcore, you know, seems like obviously there's a lot of people interested in it. Obviously there's a lot of people interested in it. You know, like you go to Breakcore gives me wood party and you get a ton of fucking people wanting Breakcore. But you know, that's great, but at the same time, you know, has this Breakcore become a product? You know, has it become a brand, you know?